With today's topic being British anthropologists' perception, what I'm going to talk about is how they got it hopelessly wrong, and then of course try and build on that, how we can go to a better way ahead of us. Okay? So, for us as Aboriginal people, if you like, this was the beginning of the end. Although there was a settlement in Albany in 1827, but in 1829 this is where the tall ships came with the intentions of beginning a whole new colony. And when they came here, for us it was like they just dropped a great big rock into a pool. Boom! And most disruption was right here. You could imagine. Turned the pool as the rock hit the bottom, cloudy mud coming up, dislodging all the growth that was in the water, and a ripple going out across the pool. And that ripple just kept going till eventually it would kiss the other side, and then the ripple would come back. And the further that ripple went, the more damage was done to us as Aboriginal people. But for us here in the Nyoongar Nation, we were originally called the Bippelman people. And there were 14 different groups of us. And as we lived here, we eked out an existence. And that existence was centred around a 6-season cycle. So that would take us across a landscape in a 6-season cycle. The new people that had arrived were told that we were the missing link. And lots of research was done on us, which is typical with academia, etc. You have to have the stats. And of course they couldn't prove that the cranial capacity was smaller, etc., etc. And the damage was done. It was said that we just wandered aimlessly around the landscape or went walkabout. That's the first one I wish to dispel. Because we lived our lives according to the Spirit. And when we follow the protocol of the Spirit, it works with us. We don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to work with the Spirit today. Not like that at all. It's how we present ourselves every day. And we have an ancestral lineage going back in excess of 80,000 years, according to academia. That's a long time. It's not if you talk about the cosmos and the formation of universes, etc. But when you talk about people and a continuous group of people doing the same things and eking out an existence, we have no peers. We're it. The longest, continuous, unbroken culture of any race of people on earth. And therefore, we had an incredible structure. And this is where we get to the point where I'll briefly visit into those for you. I only have a few fleeting moments. For me, they always go just like that. However, there are numerous conversations that we as a nation need to have. And as we have those conversations on a level playing field, then and only then will what is needed in this place today come to the fore. Because this planet has never seen a group of people that have looked after a place any better than right here. I can only speak for the southwest of Western Australia, my father's country. He was born in the saddle of the hills just up there. We call it Mundering in our language. Today there's an emphasis on the syllable air, Mundaring. And where the rain falls and the water flows, so does your spirit. I feel right at home here. The water that runs down through the Helena into the Derbyl Yerrigan and on the way down to the ocean. So the ancestral lineage is here. So as we had a 6-season cycle, we moved across the land and there was a social order and it was rigidly enforced. And to reinforce that, there was a governance model. And of course, sticking it all together so that we could live in harmony with everything else was a totemic system. Everything in the landscape fitted into a totem. And those 4 things allowed us to eke out our existence, moving from one campsite to the next, harvesting as we went. And along the way, there would be teaching. Babingers would do the teaching. And they're 2 generations older than the persons they're teaching. They would learn story, they would learn song, they would learn dance, and they would learn art. And moving from one place to the next, children would be born. And people are born on that Kalap Gur, we call it, the song line. And someone's singing. The children are learning the early songs. There'd be an elder, maybe 60 years plus, with a hair belt wrapped around them. And that hair belt would have the hair of every person that had lived their life and was buried along the trail. Every child was at its birthplace as it did one complete circuit. And you walked past where people were buried as you did your annual cycle. The annual cycle was governed by a celestial body. Most people call it Pleiades now. For us, it's Yokala. Yokala means females. And in a story, there was just a little group that were moved out of the way because we have numerous stories about the night sky. And as that little group were moved out of the way, they formed what you would call in English the 7 sisters. Only 6 can be seen with the naked eye. 1 is a planet. And every 13 years, 337 days, that planet comes back and is the 7th sister. Like I said, folks, there's numerous conversations we need to have. Pardon. Before I could do this and articulate this in a way with some authority, that meant I had to bring the ancient cultural knowledge that I learned as a child, based on large doses of common sense, alongside a modern way of learning, based on large doses of scientific principle. Been there, done that. And now that is, to me, the only level playing field. And so when I speak about it, everything I speak to you about, you can cross-reference. I've learnt that. And then make your own mind up. Because those British anthropologists, they didn't just get it wrong, folks. They got it hopelessly wrong. They didn't tell you that we had this social order of marriage where you could only marry certain people because of the structure of that. Some are born under the sign of Wadong the Crow, and if you are, you're a Ngarnuk person. Sorry, a Ballarat person. Or a Ngarnuk person. They can never ever marry one another. If you're born under Manach the White Cockatoo, you're a Taunderup person or a Diderup person. They can never marry each other. You cannot have a Diderup person here marrying a Ballarat person there, and vice versa. And you cannot have a Ngarnuk person here marrying a Taunderup person there, and vice versa. So therefore you can only marry that way and that way. Sorry, you can't marry that way. Not that way and not that way, only there and there. And what you end up with is a gene pool that's kept far enough apart to allow a race of people to last thousands and thousands of years. The British anthropologists didn't learn that until way down the track, after they'd blundered and stumbled through and got it hopelessly wrong. So with that social order and that marriage law, that means you can go back 80,000 years knowing who married who and protect an ancestral lineage. We didn't have a mortgage on that. There are other belief systems that believe if you protect your ancestral lineage, you produce people who can perform miracles. Because they say, and they wrote it for everybody, he was begat by, and he was begat by, and he was begat by, and he was begat by. You see what I mean? People who perform miracles. But they were individuals. Our people could perform miracles as a collective. That's getting back to this important information we need to share. Then with the governance model that was forced upon us by ice ages. When we're forced together in confined spaces, we soon get on one another's nerves. And prior to that, we could be called chiefs or tribes, according to the Oxford Dictionary. Because a tribe has a chief, and it's their way or the highway. But once you have an eldership, that's different. An eldership is where you have the oldest people who've acquired vast amounts of experience, never to make the same mistake twice. And coming out at the other end are people with wisdom. And there were 7 living generations at one time. The generation gap was 15 years. So as you contemplate that and think about that eldership with the marriage laws and the 6-season cycle as people moved around, you would have people connecting to everything through stories, songs, dances and art related to the totems. And everything in the natural world is a totem for us. Birds, plants, animals, trees, fish, even reptiles, the wind, the rain, etc. We're not linear thinkers. We're not triangular thinkers. We see patterns. We are pattern thinkers. And that allows us, every full moon, to celebrate those totems and sing the songs in honour of them, dance the dances, tell the stories and paint the art. And as you do that, you are caring for everything. Mundanga, karajinaning we call it in language. There's a time when spirits came out of the darkness into the light to care for everything, and ice ages forced us into those situations. The women even said, "We're not taking any notice of you blokes. You're not making decisions for me." So there's such a thing as men's business and women's business. That's where it comes from. So, if you think about that and think deeply about that, then you'll begin to understand this, that as we get older, the testosterone wanes, and so does the estrogen. It's fact. I said there were 7 living generations. There's a 15-year gap. Eldership is offered at this 45 in this part of the world. So you do the sums now. Add 15 to 45, 60. 15 to 60, 75. 15 to 75, 90. We'll stop there. Go the other way, 30, 15, just being born. So those old people are wise. But both males and females have run out of estrogen for the females and testosterone for the males. So you know what? Us blokes grow boobs and the women grow beards. It is fact. Of course you've got L'Oreal and Redken, Nioxin, Juice, and it just goes on. Helena Rubinstein. But the fact is there. Warts and all. No disguising it. It's real. So there is, right here, under your nose, folks, one of the most truly incredible races of people on the planet. We need to be treated a little bit better. It shouldn't take years to run a referendum and cost billions of dollars. They should happen straight away. So as we talk about this ancient world, you and I need to start to talk to each other and get to know one another better. And as we do that, of course, it's not the world according to Noel Nannup. It has to be the world according to the Whadjuk people. This is our patch. And we all have a voice in it. And please remember, business is business. And it's cutthroat. When we talk about tourism, it's very difficult for Aboriginal people to be involved in that and run it in their own right as a business. Because we are a caring and sharing people. When we abide by our ancient spirituality, and that's what keeps us calm, settles us down, enters this place and make the roof creak, and those types of things. It's all about a cycle and a rhythm. And we are in that rhythm. So, when a child is born, that child is born, the placenta is left attached to the umbilicus. It's wrapped around with wampum, kangaroo skin and possum skin and fur, till it breaks away. Then, if you're a male, it's buried under a jarrah tree. And because it's buried under a jarrah tree, that means the jarrah tree sends up fine feeder roots and takes some sustenance from that same placenta as the male. And what you have then, of course, is our deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, is in that tree. So that tree is me, and I am that tree. Folks, like I said, There's many discussions we need to have so that you can begin to truly understand who we are, what we subscribe to, and how we yearn desperately that we can all get along and go to a magic future together. It has already begun here in Fremantle with that one day in Freo. We got the perfect opportunity to build on it every full moon now, and we should be doing that. So I leave you with that and thank you. Enjoy.